Hello, this is Sphere Dragon coming at you with another StarCraft 2 netcast. Today we have game number 3 in the Team TSL versus Team Lesser Known Players series, and this is going to be from the HP Trophy number 2. If you have not seen game number 1 or game number 2, please go ahead and check those out. I might put some kind of link somewhere. Maybe I'll put it along here. Who knows? I have no idea. That's all stuff I decide later on. But let's go ahead and introduce these players. Spawning down here in the bottom right-hand corner of Shakuras Plateau, we have the purple Zerg player. He is a British Zerg representing Team Western Wolves, a lesser-known team, but really definitely a very strong foreigner team. We have the Zerg player. His name is WWZiktomini. And his opponent, spawning in the top left-hand corner of Shakuras Plateau, is the red Protoss player. He's been in GSL Kodas finals. He's a very strong Protoss player, and he loves those DTs in PvZ. We're going to see if we'll see more of those DTs from him. His name is TSLinori. Inori going for that Forge Fast Expand, so standard in this matchup. And of course, sending out that Probe Scout just to see what the heck Ziktomini is up to. But we actually do see that pretty normal standard spawning pool timing. So this game is looking to be pretty normal. There's not a whole lot else to say there. But in the meanwhile, we will go ahead and talk a little bit about the format for this tournament. So I kind of talked about this in some of the previous games, but just in case you decide to only tune in for game number 3, I don't know why you would do that, since game number 1 and game number 2 were pretty fucking awesome. Bleeping myself out there a little bit, but no, they were pretty awesome. But in the meanwhile, HP Trophy number 2 it actually has this very interesting format. It's a best of 5, but you're not by yourself. Actually, it's unlike a lot of those tournaments where you are entering for yourself and then you end up just playing a series of 1v1s. There's actually a 2v2, and that was actually game number 1. And the current I guess score for the series is actually 1-1. So we'll end up seeing who's going to be able to take this game. But the following series after game number 1 are all just 1 versus 1s, and it just I think the main rule that you have to follow is that each player on your team has to play at least 1 versus 1. So it's a best of 5. So that means that you play 1 2v2, then you have player set A play, and then you have player set B play, and then it's pretty much whoever you want to field, I believe. But we actually see some nice little plays coming out from Ziktomini, doing that nice little annoying probe blockage of that third expansion going down. But in the meanwhile, Ziktomini already has this natural expansion finished up, so he's going to feel pretty comfortable. Already actually has that gas guys as well. That's going to allow him to be a little bit more aggressive. Now you have to remember, Inori is a very, very strong Protoss player, but I have not actually seen a lot of his games go into the late game, so I would actually be expecting some kind of 2 or 3 base, a really big aggression coming out of him. Now we actually see that second gas geyser finishing up. That is going to allow him to start working up that gas count to either do some kind of Stargate pressure or potentially just some kind of Blink Stalker pressure. We do actually see Cybernex core going down, the third for Ziktomini finishing up, or basically about halfway. Now we also see that spawning pool researching that metabolic boost that's going to allow him to get a little bit of map control with these Zerglings. And in the meanwhile, we do see some nice little placement from actually a great mini-map vision, as this is just pretty standard for a Zerg to have. You can see this Overlord nicely positioned to see when exactly those 3rd and 4th gas guys are going to be taken, as well as having these 2 Xel'Naga towers, and actually even sending that second Overlord up over to the top right hand corner, so that when he feels like it's time, he can go ahead and just move it straight into the main and see what he can see and try and catch a little bit of a glimpse of what Inori is going for. But we do see that there is that sentry coming out, and actually interesting rally. Oh, did he actually send out, it looks like he did send out that first zealot just to put on a little bit of pressure. It is a nice little play you can do, even though, you know, you might think, hey, what's one zealot gonna do at the 6-minute 30-second mark? Well, actually, that kind of forces out a couple of those Zerglings, and even though it's not going to end the game, I've never seen the Zealot end the game. If you have any replays where the Zealot ends the game, please send it to me. I'd love to see how the hell someone micros that well. but it can just force a couple of Zerglings. I actually really like this play from Inori. He sends out that Zergling over to that third, forces Ziktomini to produce all of these Zerglings over here. That could have been an additional 3 or so drones, and now he kind of just retreats back to that zone log tower, and even though he is going to end up losing it, some nice little actually pullback micro from those Zerglings, making sure that none of them, except for one of them, actually did end up dying, but maintaining some of that control. And in the meanwhile, we actually see Inori going for that Stargate play, as we see those 3rd and 4th gas guys already being taken. So it looks like we could be seeing some very strong Stargate aggression. We also see 3 additional gateways. So it's going to come down to how well can Ziktomini actually defend. And wow, we see a ridiculously fast Spire. Oh my god. And it looks like if TSLinori is actually very slow about getting out these Stargate units, he's just going to be going ahead and picking off as many Overlords as he can. That is a relatively safe decision to make. And ooh, just barely going to miss that Overlord over there. So a nice little save for Ziktomini. Oh no, it looks like Inori does end up scouting it out, and he's going to go ahead and pick that off. But in the meanwhile, let's go ahead and take a look at the queen count for Ziktomini. We do see 3 queens out, as well as some spore crawlers are actually already finishing up. So Ziktomini having a great scout off on exactly what's going on. It's going to be very difficult for Inori to do a lot of damage, but you do have to remember, with that Spire finishing up, that's going to make it even more difficult, as Ziktomini can go ahead and just produce 1 or 2 Corruptors, and it kind of invalidates these little Phoenix over here. But we're going to have to see what TSLinori's plan is to transition out of this. It looks like it's going to be a robotic facility that is a little bit indicative of getting that Colossus tech. But hold that thought, we do see that very... Oh, actually, there's no Void Ray out on the map, I don't believe. No, so actually a very interesting decision from Inori. Not opting to get that Void Ray for that Stargate pressure. Is going to be able to do this nice little lift up on the Queen. Definitely going to be able to pick it off. Has to be a little bit careful about that Spore Crawler. Could actually end up losing. Oh no, a little bit of miscontrol. Actually picking up the egg instead of the Queen, but he does end up getting it finally without losing any of those Phoenix. But one thing you have to remember is actually, wow, an Infestation Pit already done. Wow, Ziktomini teching up so freaking fast, and Inori actually going for that 3rd expansion relatively fast as well. Not quite as fast as you might see in some other situations where a lot of Protoss players do like to go for that expansion around, say, 8 minutes. But still a relatively fast expansion. Now is actually going to just be using that robotic facility to get observers up. So it looks like Inori feeling very safe to play a fairly greedy style game, as he knows that Ziktomini is really going for a greedy style and very tech heavy style as well. Now we do see that in terms of worker counts, they are actually locked dead even. But you have to remember, Ziktomini probably wants a slightly higher drone count than his opponent, as he's already started mining off his 3 bases. Meanwhile, Inori hasn't even really started mining off of his 3rd, so you can kind of expect that he won't have full saturation over at that 3rd base. But Ziktomini kind of cutting it a little bit. Oh my god, a great fungal growth over there. If he can continue chaining those, wow, he grabs every single one of those Phoenix, and now that's going to be such a great play. But one of the infestors that has a lot of those fungals gets lifted, and that's actually going to stop the chaining of those fungals, and actually is going to be able to pick that off. So a great play from Inori, and wow, now he's going to be able to start picking off all of these infestors. He has enough lift for every single one. So what turned out to be such a great play from Ziktomini, catching all those off guard, ends up being completely the opposite. It actually ends up coming to bite him back in the ass. And now we do see Ziktomini sending in all of those Zerglings, but what can they do against these +1 Zealots? What are the upgrades on Ziktomini's army? I actually don't even see any Zerglings out, so I can't really... Oh, here we do see, it looks like they do have actually +1 melee attacks, or that's kind of interesting. We do see a couple of Mutalisks out on the map, but now, since those Phoenix were able to survive, they're going to be able to do some nice little damage and nice micro if they can maintain microed against these Mutalisks, as those Mutalisks are outranged by those Phoenix. Phoenix very hard to control with that micro, unless you end up getting that Fleet Beacon upgrade, in which case it becomes much easier. But meanwhile, we do see Inori teching up for those Colossus, getting out all those upgrades. He's been staying on such a very cost-effective, or sorry, not cost-effective, but a very light cost army. Just those couple of Phoenixes able to fend off all of these Mutalisks, as well as this very large Zealot count, and Zealots are pretty much just minerals, so it's very easy to replenish those and make those. And honestly, Inori is in such a good position in this game. I'm not sure if Ziktomini can do much about it. He is going ahead and taking that 4th base. Now you do have to remember, he does have this Infestation Pit done, and oh my god, actually does manage to actually get all of those Phoenix, so that's definitely going to be a nice little win for him. But now we do see the Mules coming in. There are quite a few Stalkers that are finally morphed in, so now it looks like he's going to be able to fend off this Mutalisk army, and meanwhile the Mutalisk are going to be able to pick off this little Zealot over the Zealot Tower. Just sees a little bit of map control, but he's supposed to be very, very careful. He does not want to lose those Mutalisks. As one thing I was saying though is that the infestation pit is done, so that does mean he can tech to Hive whenever he wants, and he already has that Spire down, so he can start getting that greater Spire if he feels like he can. But it's going to be very, very scary if he does decide to go ahead and do that. And oh my god, look at how much damage he's doing. Wow! He actually managed to pick off an insane number of probes, 13 probe kills, considering he is not taking any damage really whatsoever on these Mules. He's done a fantastic job with that little harassment move. And now we do see the stream of Stalkers and Zealots and a Colossus moving out to try and defend, but these Mules are going to all stay relatively intact. And now we see a nice little group of Zerglings looking to see if they can do a little bit of counterattackage, but I really like Inori's positioning over here. As long as he can maintain these Stalkers to try and fend off against these Mutalisks a little bit, or relatively well, he will be in a fairly good position, and then at the same time, he can also move the rest of his army over to his third very, very quickly. Now we do see actually Blink finishing up, so he's going to be able to do some really nice damage to those Mutalisks. So those Mutalisks are really not getting a huge number more kills. Actually having to deal with all those Stalkers did not really trade very cost effectively there. So now it looks like Ziktomini starting to see diminishing returns on that harassment. Might have to be a little bit careful. Does not want to sacrifice those Mutalisks. But we do still see he's still sitting on that lair tech, and I'm not sure how much I agree with this. I understand that, yes, Ziktomini has to be a little bit careful and wary that as soon as Inori pushes out, he's going to be in a very, very uncomfortable position. And if he invests into that Hive tech, he's going to be in an even scarier position, considering he'll just have a smaller army. But at the same time, I'm not sure if he's going to be able to just sit and wait on this kind of army composition. And you have to see, even though these Mules are doing a fairly okay job doing some harassment, Inori is able to just move out across the map and be able to do an insane amount of damage. But oh my god, it looks like he actually caught Inori a little bit out of position. There are a couple of Stalkers over here, and there is still some supply left over to warp in additional Stalkers, and that's actually going to leave Inori feeling safe enough to move out across the map over to the third, do a little bit of poking, and now we do see the Mutals coming in to engage, and the Zerglings trying to come in on the other angle, but some great force fields, and now the Mutals are forced to retreat over the army. The Stalkers, look at how many Mutals were actually lost over there, and how pumpkin health a lot of them are, and now we do see the blink forward, the Infestor getting a nice little growth off, but I don't think it's going to matter. These Mutals are doing such an insane amount of damage to these Stalkers, but the Stalkers returning the favor with those little lasers, knocking them out of the sky, and there's the GG. Very well played from Western Wolves, Ziktomini and TSLinori, but TSLinori just showing that actually that late macro style gameplay and really just playing very greedy after seeing how tech heavy his opponent was able to just really take that game pretty handily actually. So we're actually going to be seeing this game, or this series, tie up to, or not tie up, but go into Team TSL's lead with 2-1, so that means we're going to see at least one more game. So let's go ahead and jump into game number 4, and we'll see exactly who's going to end up taking this best of 5 series, or if the Foreigners can actually come back and somehow, by some miracle, take out Team TSL in the 1 versus 1s. Also, if you enjoy my videos in capacity, in any capacity whatsoever, oh my god, I'm tripping over all my words because I just want to go into game number 4. Please like and subscribe and all that good stuff. You guys know the drill. Leave any feedback. Submit your replays to feardragon64@gmail.com. I will see you guys in game number 4.